This episode of the Miami Real Estate Show is brought to you by Octopus Agent. It is the lead capturing website, email marketing system, and IDX you need to automate your real estate business. Remember, most websites are just virtual business cards. And in order to succeed in real estate, you need to have the frequency and consistency in your marketing campaigns. It is key to success in this business. And all of this should be automated. If you're looking to have a real estate website with professional content, IDX property search, and automatic email marketing campaigns to capture more leads and to position yourself as the expert of choice, visit octopusagent.com. This is by far the best website and email marketing solution in the real estate industry. Add promo code Miami Real Estate Show to get 20% discount in your first order. Again, visit octopusagent.com. Welcome to another episode of the Miami Real Estate Show. Today, for the third time in the show, Craig Studnicky.
Orlando Montiel.
My pleasure to have you here again.
Thank you. Good
now
to see
we
you
have
too. The
ISG report, 25 years.
25 years and more gray hair, right? But yes, 25 years. Yeah.
Oh man. All right, for those of you, again, who are living under a rock, that do not know you, I'm not going to go into all your background because you've been in the show a few times already, but tell me a little bit about yourself to get started.
Well, I'm originally from New Jersey. Yeah. I moved here, I'm 62 years old. I moved here 30 years ago. Went to work for one of the most brilliant real estate men I've ever met, a guy named Tom Daley.
Yes.
In fact, there's a few people that I work with today that all started with Tom Daley.
For those of the people here in the audience and watching the show today, tell us who Tom Daley is. Because it's a very key person in our industry. It was a key person in the industry.
He hired me for a project in Aventura, a single-family home project called Country Club Estates. And he was, the first year was like fraternity hazing. He was unbelievably difficult person to deal with because it turns out he had a brain bigger than everybody in this room.
Okay.
This guy never spent a day in college, not one day. But he could look at a piece of land and figure out, like that, what it should be. Single-family houses, a condo, a hotel, an office building, a golf course resort, whatever it might be. He could buy land and negotiate terms on land like nobody. He could work with architects and design projects without an architectural degree like nobody ever met. He instinctively knew what people wanted to buy 5 years from now. He just had an intuitive third eye when it came to this stuff. He could negotiate general contracting agreements with the Boy Scouts, also known as general contractors, like nobody ever met. Okay. And he could negotiate construction loans with lenders.
What did you learn from Tom? One specific lesson that you can remember that you can share with the audience today.
Tom was my sales mentor. I'm a salesman. I'm not a developer. I'm not a mortgage banker. I'm a salesman. I own ISG, and I'm a partner in RelatedISG. We're a sales company, so I'm a salesman. He basically taught me to keep it simple. Sales is three things. He used to call me Craigala. Sales are three things. It's prospecting for customers. It's perfecting your presentation. And follow up, follow up, follow up. And those three things are incredibly dynamic. There's nothing static about any of those. Right. If you're really working it, you're working it every day, sometimes several times within every day.
So prospecting, perfecting your presentation and follow up.
Right. For example, right now, Swire hired ISG to...
Please write that down. That's
a golden nugget. That came from Tom Daley, and I put it into practice every day. Swire just hired ISG to sell the remaining condominiums here at Reach and Rise here at Brickell City Center.
Which we are today, here in Brickell City Center.
That's where we are.
Amazing
Brickell City Center. Be careful. The more time you spend at Brickell City Center, this place becomes unbelievably addictive.
Yes.
Unbelievably so. I mean, so much so that I'm actually seriously considering maybe changing zip codes.
There you go.
This is, if you want a little slice of Manhattan and you want the weather of Miami.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. That's a salesperson. You see that?
This is it. Wow.
If you want a piece of Manhattan and the weather of Miami, this is it.
Yeah, because Miami's turning into a little bit of a New York City. Yeah. You can tell by the traffic, right?
Especially in this amazing area, Brickell Avenue.
It's amazing, yeah. And the melting pot of Miami is the
Incredible,
melting pot of Miami.
incredible. Walking around Brickell Avenue is incredible.
I grew up in New Jersey, so New York City was our city. And up there, the melting pot consists of really people mostly from Northern Europe, you know, so you got or I'll say all over Europe. You've got the Italians, and you got the Germans, and you got the Polish, and you got the Russians, and you got the Irish. You know, that's the Northeast. Miami is a melting pot made up of South Americans, for the most part, and Central Americans, Mexico to Argentina, and all places in between. Nevertheless, still a melting pot. And melting pots create their own little buzz. It was inevitable that Miami would start to feel a little bit of that urban buzz like New York. And it was Swire that pulled it off here at Brickell City Center. It is a slice
with the experience they already
Manhattan.
had with Brickell Key developing the whole island.
Oh, and not to mention their experience worldwide.
Yeah.
I have never been to Hong Kong. My friend, Maile Aguila, who's the Senior Vice President of Sales here for Swire, she's been to Hong Kong many times because that's Swire's home base. And you see that Swire really has their arms wrapped around urban planning. It took Swire and their brains and their financial muscle to pull something like this off. Yeah. And this is, I'm telling you, the more time you spend here. I remember. And one of the things I was going to say, you make the prospecting and presentation. We started here May 1. The presentation that we're using today on, what is today, June 22nd, is different than the presentation we were using on May 22nd, let alone the presentation we're making on May 1. We're constantly perfecting our presentation based on how many units we're selling and feedback from customers and feedback from real estate agents like you. We're always tweaking it. Always tweaking it, always tweaking it. And I think the more you tweak it, the more fun your game becomes.
You know what? What you just said, it's such a key point in our business. Don't confuse information with knowledge. And don't confuse knowledge with skills.
No.
Now, I come here and you teach me about how to make the right presentation for Brickell City Center. All I'm getting is information. That's it. I can do zero with information. Now, if I practice a little bit, it becomes knowledge. I can make a little bit of money with that and help other clients. But now, the practicing and perfecting that presentation about Brickell City Center becomes skills. And that's where my business starts to grow.
Yeah.
Big time difference. And he said it from the beginning, right? Prospecting, keep polishing your presentation, right? Very, very, very important. Practice. It's consistency, delivered practice.
And to what you just said, the skill kind of comes just from your ability to listen, because the feedback you get from customers and brokers automatically tweaks your presentation. Let me give you a crazy analogy. I've been playing golf since I was a kid. I played on my high school golf team. I played on my college golf team. Love to play golf. My biggest weakness is putting. It always has been. I can hit the ball great, but I'm not really good at that short stick. So I spend a lot of time with the shorts when I was competing, practicing my putting. Why? Because the feedback that I was getting from the golf course was, you can't putt, Craig. You can hit the ball great. You stink at putting. So I spent a lot of time on the putting green perfecting my putting. When you're selling anything, we as real estate professionals, it's kind of incumbent on us to almost be our own critics. You know sometimes when you nail the presentation. You also know sometimes when, oh, Jesus, I wasn't particularly good at the opening, or maybe I wasn't particularly good in the middle of it, or maybe I got distracted. I picked up my cell phone and answered a text message when a customer was asking me a really important question. I shouldn't be doing that. Whatever it is that you criticize yourself about, trust the wisdom that's speaking to you and practice it. Yep. Practice
over and over and over.
And you'll automatically get subconsciously
by the way,
smooth at it, just super smooth at it.
Then you start getting the feedback from your clients and you see the reaction by doing the practice, how in awe they are when they see you present to Brickell City Center and the information you have once you have all this in your brain. Now it's reinforcement, and all you want is to get more information and develop that information into knowledge and skills. Now what motivates you is getting more skills and more skills because you see the results.
Yes.
Very, very, very important. All right.
But you were asking about Tom Daley. So Tom Daley, just to circle back on that one. So Tom eventually became partners with George Perez. George Perez owns the Related Group. And they are clearly the biggest condo developer, between George Perez and his partner, Steve Ross in New York. They're the biggest condo developers probably in the United States. Tom pretty much ruled the Related Kingdom up until 6 years ago when he passed away at a very young age. And Tom is the guy who brought George Perez into the condo development game. Prior to that, George was a very successful multifamily developer, rentals. It was Tom that brought him into not only the condo game, but the high-end condo game.
Portofino and
Portofino,
and Miami
Murano,
Beach, right?
Murano Grand, Icon, South Beach, Icon Brickell, Oceans 1, Oceans 2, Oceans 3, the Trump triplets that you see in Sunny Isles Beach, 50 Biscayne. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. Tom was, when you worked for him, he was kind of a prick. But if you had the stamina to deal with him, and you had the acceptance to understand that he was trying to teach you, he just had a really rough way of teaching, but it started to kind of sink in. And to his credit, he was a very fundamental, basic guy. Okay. He was in the office every day at 7 a.m., every day, no matter how late we were out.
That's a habit he had.
Boom, 7 a.m., he's in there, and he just kept a certain pattern, the way he worked.
So prospecting,
perfecting your presentation.
And then finally,
and then follow up.
So we're here today specifically for this beautiful book right here.
For the Miami Report.
Exactly.
Yes.
We've done 2 previous ones for the Miami Report at the time.
On your show, yeah. This is we've been doing this for now almost 10 years.
So tell me, when did you publish this one?
Simple. This kind of got to perfecting my presentation. And maybe a little bit of prospecting too. It was 2009. And the New York Times and CNN had said that Miami had 10 years of standing inventory from all the defaulted condos.
He's talking about how he developed the first one. Right.
Yeah. 2008 was a financial disaster around the world. It wasn't just condos. Everything went wrong. And by 2009, there was all these beautiful brand new condos with standing inventory, investors who just walked away from their deposits. And the New York Times and the CNN said, there's 10 years of standing inventory. Well, I'm running a company called ISG, and I know another golden nugget from Tom Daley. You can't sell anything without a sense of urgency. And the best way to create...
Wait. It's worth repeating again.
Okay.
You
cannot sell anything without a sense of urgency, no matter what it is. Right. Whether it's your cell phone. In single-family homes, it's very easy.
And think about everything on the internet. Think about anything on TV that you see. It's 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 minute. The last 5 remaining. You see that?
Yeah.
Urgency.
That's urgency.
There you go.
Well, then it gets to, and the best way to create, the easiest way to create a sense of scarcity, urgency, is to create a sense of scarcity.
There you go.
Okay? So there's only 5 left. You better call now. That's a sense of scarcity.
Go to Amazon and you'll see almost every single time you're going to buy a product, it says 5 left in stock, right? There you go.
And you bet. Me too. By the way, the easiest person to sell is a salesperson. Just know that. Just know that. When you have a good year, be careful. If you walk into a real estate office or Mayor's Jewelers, you're going to buy something. Because we're salespeople. It's just part of our DNA. So anyway, in 2009, with the New York Times and CNN saying what they were saying, how in God's name do you create a sense of scarcity? When the New York Times and CNN saying 10 years. So we said to ourselves,
10 years of inventory.
Yep. Another way of saying it was like a falling knife environment. No one wants to catch a falling knife. You're going to wait till it hits the floor. No one's going to buy a condo or a house or anything.
I like that analogy, falling knife
Falling
environment.
knives.
Yeah, there you go.
Prices are dropping. Why would I buy now if the prices are going to be here in 2 months, 3 months, 6 months? So we went out on our own. We said to ourselves at ISG, with all due respect to the New York Times and CNN, this doesn't make any sense. We live here. I mean, it just didn't pass the gut test. Your own instincts were saying, there's no way there's 10. I mean, there might be 5 years, but admittedly, there's a lot of condos for sale, but not 10. So we went out, we literally counted neighborhood by neighborhood, building by building, how many condos there were for sale. And New York Times said 25,000. We counted 11,502. That's what we counted from Coconut Grove as far north as Fort Lauderdale.
That's all of them, or east of 95?
East of 95. That's my
area
of geography. Good catch. Thank you. Thank you. But 11,502 is
I know your report, man.
Yes. Yes, you do. It wasn't 10 years. It was, we thought 5. So we created our first little, newsletter. But we can't call it a newsletter. That's so boring. So we said, why not? What are we going to call it? Well, we'll call it the Miami Report. Okay. I mean, it was like a 3-second conversation. So we called it the Miami Report, and we published it, and we said, we believe it's 5 years. This was September of 2009. And by September of 2011, 2 years later, all of that inventory was gone. And I learned myself a lesson. This isn't a Tom Daley nugget. It's kind of a Craig nugget. I will never, ever, ever doubt the resiliency of Miami ever again. I could not believe how this inventory got sucked up. Now, I have a colleague of mine, a guy named Sergio Pintos, that said, well, Craig, that's because South Americans came up and bought everything in 2010, 2009, because the US dollar was very weak then, and the Latins came up here with cash and bought everything. I said, yes, with cash, because there was no mortgage money available in 2009. So you got a point that the dollar was weak, but how do you sell all that inventory without any availability of financing? Everything was bought for, paid for in cash. I'll tell you how, because Miami's that attractive. It's attractive to people all over the world, not just in South America, Central America, but even before South Americans fell in love with Miami, the superhighway between Miami and New York City, where that New York market existed. I used to have to come down here as a kid and visit my grandparents during like Easter, you know, and there was nothing going on here other than, so my brothers and sisters and I would go to the beach every day, and we'd go back to New Jersey with an enviable, jealous creating tan, because that's all you really had going on. Today, whew. But anyway, the point is all that stuff got absorbed because Miami is that friggin' attractive. Anyway, what happened was with this, it got legs, and people wanted us to publish it again in 2010. So 2009 was like 8 pages. 2010 was like 10.
Yeah, now we have.
Now it's like 93 pages. This thing, I feel like I'm publishing a magazine every year.
And tell the audience and the viewers the research group you have behind it. I mean, how do you get this information in this book?
Two things.
Because the first time your team started calling condominiums developers and asking them, right? How many units for sale? How many sold? What's the inventory left, right?
Yeah, we had a lot of the salespeople working on those projects. We've been in the business for 25 years, so a lot of salespeople that work on different projects, maybe not under the ISG umbrella anymore, I know them. And Alex Vidal said earlier, I have a philosophy: keep your powder dry. Don't get into petty, stupid arguments over petty, stupid things. My God, because the person that you piss off today, for some reason, you're going to need tomorrow, because God has a sense of humor. So be smart about this. Yeah. We're not always going to agree, but let's be cool with each other. Anyway, when I call sales offices and I ask sales agents for information, they tell me. Today it's a little different because we're partners with Related. We handle all of PMG's work, and now I'm handling Swire's work. So I have access to all these sales reports. So when I publish, sales data in this thing, trust me, this is about 95% spot on. The only reason it's not 100 is because we live in a dynamic city and we live in dynamic times. And the information that was published in here through the end of March has now changed. We don't have as much inventory today as we had then. But to get to Orlando's question, we have a research department of 3 people. I have an in-house marketing department of 6. And I have sales directors that I listen to with both ears, because everything happens on the front line. I'm hardly ever at my corporate office. I'm either here at Brickell City Center, or I'm at Brickell, or I'm at the W in Fort Lauderdale. I'm always in the sales offices, because that's where everything happens. When we write the Miami report, call me the editor-in-chief, if you will, but I get everybody to contribute. What do you really think? What do you really think? Come on, tell me how you really feel about this. Don't tell me what you think. Tell me how you think your customers or your clients or your sales agents are going to react to this. One of the challenges we have, and you sort of have this too with your show, I have to make next year's report better than this one. Yeah. I have to make it more interesting. I have to make it the best ever. That's kind of a challenge, but cool thing is I got George Perez from Related and Steve Owens, who's the former CEO of Swire here in Miami. He got the Miami report, and he wrote me the most beautiful email that this was the best ever. And George pretty much said, didn't know how you did it, but because it's been a challenging year for condo developers, but once again, you hit it out of the park. It's really nice to hear that, because it's hard to improve on this every year. But why do I do this? I do this for 2 reasons. First and foremost, to sell my listings.
There you go.
Selfishly, to sell my own listings. So the other reason I do it is to build loyalty with the real estate community. And to, I guess, call that branding. But it was an unexpected benefit that we have so many companies and professionals from literally around the world, not just realtors in Miami, developers in New York, developers in Sao Paulo, developers in Buenos Aires. Now, Hong Kong, because of Swire, we're producing this now in Mandarin to send to China.
Now, hold on 1 second. What is this for those people that are in our coaching group? It's just content.
Yeah. it's
This
all
is content.
It's all
right?
facts.
Now, ISG is not talking about how great they are.
No.
They're showing you.
And I'm not selling.
See the big difference?
And I'm not selling Brickell City Center.
Yeah,
I'm selling Miami.
Yeah, exactly.
This is Miami.
But here, and there's not exactly no picture of Craig right here.
Yeah, no.
It's all about content, right? It's all about providing your clients with relevant content, value, and he's been doing this for so many years, and that's one of the reasons you get to work with the top developers in Miami.
Yeah.
Because this is not a presentation, a folder. This is
really
it.
this is kind of information you all kind of need.
When
but it's
he
all over
sits
the
down
place.
with a developer, right, talking about, well, will you hire our company? Well, here it is.
What do you know about Miami?
What do you know about Miami?
It's all in
the
one
Miami
place.
report. Right. So tell me about 2018. Your findings. Let's start with the 3 key takeaways for real estate agents. By the way, every single real estate agent in Miami should have this report. And even if you don't have the physical, the hard copy, you can get it online. All right. So tell me the 3 key points from this report. Very, very important. And we'll go in depth into it, but it's important, the vision of the
Sure.
the key.
2000, in our research, if you ignore 2008 for a minute, just ignore that as a year of it was our 1929.
Yeah.
The slowest 2 years for condominium developers for sales was 2016 and 17. Imagine that.
Really?
Imagine that. The slowest 2 years. In the last
Lower
25
than
years.
2008 and 9?
No, once again, we're ignoring.
Ignoring this.
2009 blew the doors off of 16 and 17.
Right, because
we sold a lot of condos in 09, a lot of condos in 10. 16 and 17 were terrible. I mean, and we tripped on that in our research. And Swire suffered with it, Related suffered with it, PMG suffered with it. Hell, I suffered with it. I own ISG. I mean, the commissions weren't as nice in 16 and 17 as they were in 14 and 15. But we found that out kind of by happenstance. Coming up with the theme or a strong takeaway with this one was unbelievably challenging because it's a slow market. And I don't want to be the guy who paints the roses red. I want to be optimistic, but I don't want to be the guy that gives people a false sense of hope.
Right.
So I was challenging everybody in ISG as well as myself. What the hell is going to be our theme for this one? You never know in life when you're going to get help or how you're going to get help. You never know. You got to stay hopeful and believe in God and believe that circumstance is always going to change in your life if you're open-minded and you're looking for those opportunities. I mean, I really strongly believe in that. One day I got a call from Miley Aguilar from Swire, who just hung up with the CFO, Chief Financial Officer of Swire Hong Kong. Now, Swire's a public company, and condo sales at Reach and Rides, like all over Miami, were slow, and they needed to report back to their stockholders that Miami's still going to be okay. The Reach and Rides are going to be okay, and that one day you should build your 3rd condo tower attached to Brickell City Center. So what am I going to tell our stockholders? So she asked Miley, your friend Craig Studnicky from ISG, they do that Miami report, right? Yes. Do you think that they could do a study showing how condos on Brickell Avenue have appreciated, say, in the last 20 years? Because we want to show our stockholders that condos are still a good bet. So Miley calls me and says, can you do this? And I said, whoa, what a great friggin' idea. I think you just came up with the theme of my next Miami report because I've been racking my brain, driving my car, listening to music, but asking myself, what am I going to do? How am I going to make this one better than the last one? How am I going to keep the Miami report relevant? Miley, thank you. But I'm not going to do 20 years because I'm celebrating ISG's 25th anniversary. I'm going to go back 25 years. I'm not going to just Brickell. I'm going to do from Coconut Grove to Fort Lauderdale, east of 95, and I wonder what it will look like. Now, this is not an algorithm that you can write. The only way you do this research is you got to go building by building, tax record by tax record. There were 478 buildings that were developed since 1993. 75,000 condos, 74,888. I'm in sales.
Since 1993.
93.
Okay.
From Coconut Grove up to Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And once again,
east of
95.
Okay.
Put it all in the Cuisinart, push the button, and what we found is that the average appreciation rate for a condo in that area for the last 25 years has been 9% per year. And then see this ugly dip in this graph? That's 2008, 2009.
Yeah, you see it right here. Yep.
So the falling knife thing, it's here.
Okay.
So when you take into account even the falling knife thing.
So 25 years, 9%
per year.
Per year.
Appreciation.
Since 1993.
Since 1993.
Okay. Okay.
Since 1993. I'm a grandfather now. If someone said, here, buy this stock for your 2 grandkids, because they're twins, boy and girl. And I promise you, Craig, guaranteed, the next 25 years, these things are going to go up 9% per year. Call it their college fund. Call it their post-college fund. Where the hell do I sign? Where the hell do you get a return like that? So that's the one. This gift came from the CFO of Swire Hong Kong.
Okay.
I didn't think of this.
Okay.
They asked us to do
So
this.
that's the number one key point. Very, very interesting. That
Last two-
has to be shown to your clients.
Last 2 years have been slow, but last 25 years,
Okay.
pretty freaking good. Now, is the past a predictor of the future? Mm-hmm. You ever try to break a personal habit? Is the past a predictor of the future? You betcha. And so that's one takeaway.
Okay, that's the first, which is beautiful. 9% a year for the last 25 years. Great. And we have the dip on 2007 to 2009.
Yes.
All right, good.
Takeaway number 2. Because this really shocks a lot of brokers and now investors or buyers of real estate.
1 second. You got to show this to your clients. Saying it only, they won't believe it. They have to see it.
Yeah, no,
right?
just show it to them.
Yeah.
It's, Swire sent this is the next takeaway. So Swire sends this report to Bloomberg News in New York. And yesterday morning I get a call from this young man from Bloomberg. He has my Miami report. And he wants to talk about this, our groundbreaking chart. Can you explain this? And what is the impact on Miami? Well, that's a pretty big question, but let me do it to you in 2 minutes. The US dollar was really low in 9 and 10, sold a lot of condos. And then it started gaining strength. In January of 2006, the US dollar hit its high point, its apogee, against all foreign currencies worldwide. And when that happened, condo sales in Miami slowed down dramatically.
Yep.
Dramatically, because the main market for all developers is South America. It's not that South Americans don't like Miami anymore. They love Miami. But it got to be too expensive because by the time they convert their currencies to dollars, these assets were too much money. So consequently, all big developers, Swire, Related, PMG, they had no choice but to pull the plug on pre-construction condos that they had in the can that they wanted to put into the proverbial pipeline. Makes sense,
That's year
right?
what?
2016.
Okay, 2016. All right.
It has continued since. Last year, some of you may recall, Related tried to develop a project here in downtown Miami called Auberge. And they threw everything at it. And there's nobody better in this game than George Perez and the president of their division, Carlos Rosso. They're great. They're really good at what they do. I work for them, trust me. They're drivers. They drive you, but they push. And they're good, and they get results. And they had to pull the plug on that thing because they couldn't sell it. They couldn't sell it. And it was a good project. It was well-priced, beautifully designed, great location, and they couldn't sell it because of the dollar, just because of that crazy dollar. Well, look what's happened. So I track this like I track everything. This new cycle that we're in started in 2012.
Tell me those numbers. What do they mean? 15, 20, 20,
Yeah,
18?
so we broke it out every year, starting in 2012. In 2012, from, once again, Coconut Grove to Fort Lauderdale, there were 15 groundbreakings of condos, of new condos in 2012. Lots of parties.
That's again, Coconut Grove to Fort Lauderdale, east of 95. Okay.
The following year, 20. In 2014, a lot. 23 groundbreakings. There's a lot of champagne drunk in 2014. I know, I had a lot myself. And then it dropped a little bit in 15, and then, oops, in 16 it dropped a lot. Last year to 10.
Look at 2018, only 5?
5.
Only 5.
Groundbreakings
Yeah.
of new condos.
Yeah.
Next year, we think 3, max. The following year, we think 3, max. Because let me explain why. Let me share with you the development game. In Miami, for that matter, throughout most parts of the US, condo developers have to prove to their construction lenders what they call market acceptance. Market acceptance means there's a pre-sale requirement that's met. So you have to sell about 60% of the total inventory in a building before a construction lender will give a developer a construction loan. Okay? Now, when I moved here, 50 to 60%. When I moved here 30 years ago, a high-rise building was 20 stories. That's a mid-rise now. We're building 40 stories, 80 stories. Hell, PMG wants to build a building in downtown Miami as tall as the Empire State Building in New York City. That's 100 stories. We're not building little buildings anymore. These buildings take a long time to build. It'll take every bit of 3 to 4 years. It takes 3 to 4 years to build your typical high-rise condo today. It takes 2 years to reach the pre-sale.
So tell me the impact
Now you sound like the Bloomberg guy. So what's the impact?
Right.
Every developer, Swire, PMG, Related, the big guys, they've all pulled the plug. And nobody has plans, nobody, to start the pre-sale campaign on anything until next year, this time at the earliest. Take that to the bank. Now,
Say that again.
no major developer plans on starting a pre-sale campaign for a new high-rise until this time next year at the earliest.
All right, so 2019.
Yeah, summer of 19.
Okay.
Maybe we're going to start pre-sales of new condos again because condos are selling. I'll get to that in a second. If I'm right, and I think I am, I've been doing this a while, it's going to take the average developer 2 years to reach their pre-sale requirement. And then it's going to take them 3 to 4 years to build that guy. So that's somewhere between 5 to 6 years before you see substantial new supply hit the market that people can actually move into. What do we do between now and then? What is available? So what Bloomberg said is, well, how big of a deal is that? Well, the fastest growing state in the United States population-wise is Texas.
Listen to this.
Is Texas. Last year they grew by a little over, close
Write that down.
Close to 1,100
numbers.
people a day. The second fastest growing state in the United States is Florida, us.
How many people moving to Florida in a daily
Last
basis?
year, 900 a day.
A day.
And of those 900,
A day, yes.
every day.
Yep.
Today, yesterday. As we say in New Jersey, mañana. Today, in Miami-Dade County, of that 900, 240 people are moving here. In Miami-Dade County.
Write that down. 240 people are
Every
moving on a
friggin'
daily
day.
basis. In a daily basis.
And they all have one thing in common. They all need shelter. Some people can afford a $50 million home on Star Island. Some folks can only afford $400 a month in rent, but they still need the rain off their heads. They still need shelter. And with that kind of a we're the second fastest growing state in the U.S. We're growing.
Faster than New York.
Oh, yeah.
Faster than California.
Yes, New York is dreadfully slow now. California is the third fastest growing state in the United States. We are number 2. So actually, if you think about it this way.
By the way, that information is in here.
It's all in here. Think about it this way. The fastest growing state on the west coast of the United States is California. The fastest growing state in the center of the United States is Texas. The fastest growing state on the east coast of the United States is us. Yeah. And of those 900 a day, 240 people a day come to Miami-Dade County. Now, how unique is that? So I'm in Bogota, Colombia about 3 months ago, and I was finishing this, and we got into the population part. So I asked a couple of Colombians, Alex, what is your idea of the population of Metro Bogota? Anybody here want to hazard a guess? And one guy said 4 million, one guy said 5 million, one lady said, no, 7 million. You're the closest.
It's like 9, right?
8.5 million in Bogota. Metro Sao Paulo, 22 million. Monster. Anybody want to hazard a guess of what Metro Miami is? 2.7 million. This is the smallest big city in the world. Miami's got this gigantic, enormous reputation, but we don't have that many people living here. So follow this logic then, because these are all numbers, and it logically leads you somewhere. Hopefully it stirs your heart to realize you're in a good place selling real estate, particularly at this time. South Florida is bordered by this thing we call the Atlantic Ocean on the east and the Everglades to the west. If the population keeps increasing and increasing and increasing, what does the skyline of Miami eventually look like? There's only one way to go. We got to go up, which is why we're not building 20-story buildings anymore. Inside the Miami report, you guys will have fun with this. Here's a photo taken from the bay
It's a beautiful, yeah. It's
of Brickell Avenue and downtown Miami in 1993 when ISG began. And if you flip this over this way, you'll see what Brickell Avenue became in 25 years. And if you flip this over this way, you'll see what downtown Miami became in 25 years. And I am suggesting that God knows what the next 25 years will look like. We have no choice but to continue to go up and up and up. So the other takeaway was a little bit of this, driven by population. But then we got to supply. So I feel like I'm talking to Bloomberg again, except this time it's Orlando Montiel. And he's much better looking than the guy from New York.
All right, so 9% a year.
9% a year.
Okay.
No groundbreakings,
Right.
because you can't get 50% deposits for buyers in South America when the U.S. dollar is trading so high. That's the problem. It's the dollar. That's the cork in the bottle.
Second fastest growing state. That's takeaway number 2.
Yep.
Okay. we're lowering the supply.
Supply.
Which
we don't
we're
have
getting into it.
we don't have any supply in the pipeline for the most part. On Brickell Avenue, right here, there's a project called Smart Brickell right around the corner.
Yep.
They say they're going to break ground this year. Good for them. Next year, there's a beautiful high-end condo called Una on the bay near the Rickenbacker Causeway. They say they're going to break ground next year. You know what's scheduled for 2020? 0. For 2021? 0. For Brickell Avenue, this is almost shocking. When I took this listing over in May 1, there were 414 unsold developer units on Brickell Avenue. Reach, Rise, Flatiron, Echo Brickell, some remnants in SLS, and Brickell Heights. 414. May 1. It's 6-7 weeks later, the number is now 365. Inventory is dropping, and there's nothing new that's replacing it. Now, you all read The Real Deal once in a while, and sometimes you may even heard this guy, Peter Zalewski, who is a bit of a pessimist. He doesn't think the glass is half empty. He thinks it's half empty and it's leaking. He is a great proponent of negative news.
For years.
Oh, forever.
Forever.
I was on a radio show with him last week, and oh God, it was like Rock'em Sock'em Robots. Because he will report that in the next 18 months, 12,000 condominiums are going to be delivered here in South Florida between Coconut Grove and Fort Lauderdale, east of 95. He talks really fast, this guy. That was a pretty good imitation of Peter Zalewski. But what he doesn't tell you is this, is that 83% of them, as of the end of March, were sold. They might be being delivered, but a lot of people want to live in them.
So do you see the distinction? There are how many? Let's say 1,200?
Well, there's actually 20,000 condos have been developed since 2012. Once again, the Grove up to Fort Lauderdale, east of 95.
But 83% sold already, delivered.
Sold.
Right.
I would say 80% of them have been delivered. That was the end of March. Today, that number is close to 87% are sold. So now remember the groundbreaking thing I just showed you? There's not many groundbreakings coming because there's not really a whole lot of pre-construction projects being sold. Add that fact to this fact, and I'm telling you that a year from now, there's not going to be a whole lot of developer inventory left to sell. In addition to which, now here's the real thing that's what makes 2018 remarkable. And whether you post this on social media or you just get on the phone and start calling people, you know, how many times have we taken a listing on a house and the house stays on the market for 3 months and the seller gets really irritated? And 3 months later go by and the seller gets really irritated. And you can call it seller irritation or you can call it seller fatigue. But eventually, these sellers do one of two things, if not both. They lower their price and or fire you and get a new realtor. That happens because they get irritated. Same thing's true with these developers. They're getting frustrated and they've got developer fatigue. Swire gave us a bundle of incentives to offer new buyers at Reach and Rise that makes Reach and Rise a better deal than ever. Why? Because Swire wants to liquidate the unsold inventory at Reach and Rise and start their next condo project in the next couple of years. They're ready to unload. The same is true with PMG at Echo Brickell. The same was true with Related at Brickell Heights and SLS. They're now sold out. Developer fatigue is set in all over South Florida. So this is kind of like the win-win year. Your clients can get a condo at prices that they couldn't get in the last 2 years. And you, as realtors, still get these 6 and 7% commissions that developers offer that are all going to be gone next year when all this inventory is sold out. And what's going to replace it will be pre-construction that you'll get paid on in about 3 years. So to ignore the opportunity that's available with these unsold gorgeous condos is a mistake. Focus on them because your clients can get a much better deal with developers now than they could in the last couple of years, and you get nice commissions, and the developers will love to pay you the commissions because of the developer fatigue that's set in. So that's takeaway number 3.
So one more thing that, because you talk about the city too. Tell me the 3 main things about the city. Now, we're talking about development, and now to close the interview, I want you to talk about what's happening in the city other than real estate. All the different aspects that are surrounding Miami that are putting them.
We also get into what Orlando's referring to is we also get into retail. We get into commercial real estate. We talk about the Miami International Airport.
Right.
Because we want to give your clients a sense that Miami is not just a tourism city anymore. It's not just where Craig and his brothers and sisters came a long time ago to visit Grandma and Grandpa during Easter. No. This place is becoming incredibly diverse. Miami International alone is the second busiest airport in the United States for international travelers.
Again, write that down. Miami is the second
Busiest airport.
busiest airport
It's in terms
the
of
US,
passengers that
right?
go through MIA. Number one is JFK, New York. Number two is Miami. Number three is Los Angeles. We're not just some sleepy little city anymore. Retail, 2 years ago, the mall, the Brickell City Center opened up. And, they were like maybe 1/3 occupied. Last year, they were about 50% occupied. Today, they're over 85% occupied. Rents are climbing. And the buzz inside that center is palpable. You feel it. Alex Vidal said it earlier. When you get finished here, go treat yourself to lunch in the center. There's like 23 restaurants in that place. You won't have a problem finding a seat or finding a great place for cuisine. But more than that, I feel the buzz in this place. It goes to how active retail is in Miami and Fort Lauderdale. Office space, good luck finding office space almost anywhere in South Florida today, whether it's, once again, from Coconut Grove up to Fort Lauderdale. In Brickell, forget it. It's like leased up. Where my home office is, Aventura, it's like 98% occupied. In 2008 and 2009, that disaster, it was like 50% occupied. So the whole world came to an end. So we get into these trends as well. One of the coolest things that I think that has been recently added to Miami is Brightline. I don't know if you've been on it. Carolyn, I know you've been on it. I haven't been on it yet. There's a partner of ours in Fort Lauderdale. His name is George Colony. And he came down for an award ceremony that we had here about a month ago. And he took Brightline from Fort Lauderdale to Miami. It took him 25 minutes.
And most agents I haven't taken the Brightline.
I haven't taken it either.
We should, man. It's
fast,
logical,
it's easy. He was, now this is a guy, imagine this. I'm selling the W in Fort Lauderdale for Related. His office is like 1.5 miles from the W. I can't get him to go to the W. I can't. He doesn't like condo hotels, whatever. He doesn't like sugar. He doesn't like condo hotels. He gets on Brightline, and I could never get him to come to area code 305 because this is Miami, and he's more American than I am. He gets on Brightline, comes down here. Now he wants to sell Brickell City Center because Brightline made it so easy for him to come here. And one little interesting thing that's happening with Brightline, a lot of people thought that folks in Miami would want to relocate to Broward County because it's a little less congested, because Brightline would make their life so much easier. It's gone the other way around. Folks from Broward are now thinking about coming to Miami because it's so easy to get back to Fort Lauderdale when they want to because of Brightline. Now, why am I talking about it? Because with 240 people a day coming to Miami and another 75 people a day moving to Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, the roads are getting congested. People come here with cars. They do. And yeah, the average family has 2 or 3 cars, which is part of the reason why on 95, it's always gridlock. Like always. It doesn't matter what month of the year, it always is. Brightline made it a little more civilized. So that's one small step for man. We're finally getting it. We have Brightline now from Miami to Fort Lauderdale, West Palm. 1.5 years from now, they're finally going to have the Orlando connection open. That means from Fort Lauderdale, it's going to take you 2.5 hours to get to Disney World. How nice is that? In the comfort of like a business class airline seat, in a beautifully air-conditioned train, reading something on your iPad, or just taking a nap while your kids are enjoying what they're doing. And you don't have to go 3 stops on the Florida Turnpike because the kids are getting antsy or they have to go to the bathroom. No, we're finally moving into the land of civilization. Florida is growing, not at an arithmetic pace, at what they call an exponential pace. 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2 anymore. It equals a much bigger number. And Florida, and we address it in this thing too. We're trying to wrap our heads around how we're going to handle the continued growth in Florida because Florida's in such momentum, there's no stopping it.
Now, Craig, tell me the one thing you would tell agents in 2018. You own ISG. You work with so many agents, not only in your company, but you work with so many agents in different companies. You travel around the world doing those events, presenting Miami. What is the one thing you would tell agents, a habit those agents should develop today in 2018? One habit. After so many years in sales, if you consider yourself a salesperson.
Now I'm going to go back to my Tom Daley nugget that we talked about earlier. There's prospecting, there's perfecting your presentation, and then there's follow-up. And if you ask me which one might have a little more importance, I would say prospecting.
They will force you to improve your presentation and follow-up.
Yeah. But when you're doing prospecting, you got to think about your door knock, your icebreaker. If I call you up and say, I got a deal for you, it better be a pretty cool deal. And part of what makes the deal cool is having data not to the point where you bore your client, but new data and new information that's not generally available in the marketplace or in the mainstream. You know something they don't know, and that is your door knock. Hopefully this Miami report gives you some of that, because there was an article in The Real Deal only 6 months ago that said there were 4 years of condo inventory in Miami.
Wait a minute, because what you just
Actually,
said is
40 months.
what you just said is extremely important, and that's what we advocate in coaching, right? It's just the constant development of your specialized knowledge.
Yes.
Knowing how to handle that data not only gives you the key to open the door and have a relevant communication conversation with your client, but also gives you, the reason to communicate with that person. Sometimes most agents don't know what to say. What am I going to say? Why am I going to call this client?
I'd call them.
Here it is. You have the information, the right excuse to contact that client and to position yourself as an expert of choice, because most agents are not going to take the time not only to read it, but to learn it and practice it. This is an amazing key to get into a valuable conversation with your client. And once you have the data, the client starts to respect you. He doesn't start throwing things out of the blue like, oh, there are 18 years of Miami. It's, what is it now? They say it's Miami. It's the water, the level of Miami, and the level of the water in Miami, it's going to put Miami in the next 10 years underwater. It's just clients tell you things because they hear those things. But if you have the information, that it's much more different. You had a...
Yes, how do you call a client and tell them that the information in the Wall Street Journal is inaccurate?
Uh-huh.
I mean, can you use that?
Yeah, that's the idea.
Use this data.
Very good. The question was, how do you talk to a client that is telling you that in the Wall Street, that you tell them that the information in the Wall Street Journal is not accurate? Well, this is the information you need to use.
On our website, we have this electronically, and you can download.
For free.
Oh yeah, it's available for all of you. Yeah. I know that a lot of realtors use our data to close deals that I don't get a nickel on.
Yeah. But that's fine. That's fine.
A lot of people buy me coffee. Yeah. After 6 o'clock, they buy me a single malt scotch, and I'll take it. Okay. But the bigger point is, use this data. When I was on the phone with the Bloomberg guy yesterday, he believed me because he was looking live at the rest of the data in this Miami report, which is unbelievably overwhelming. I just mentioned that in The Real Deal 6 months ago. Forgive me for mentioning his name, but I will. Ron Sheffield, who I have a lot of respect for, he runs EWM. He said, quote, there's a 40-month supply of condos for sale between Miami and Fort Lauderdale. Now, why in the hell he said that, I have no idea. He has since completely changed. Now he's saying there's no more than 6 months in Miami and probably 4 or 5 months in Fort Lauderdale. But here's the bigger point. A lot of your clients, even you, read that stuff. And when you do, it's like you don't even want to get out of bed in the morning. What am I going to do? How do I create a sense of urgency, let alone a sense of scarcity, when someone says something like that in The Real Deal? This says that's a bunch of nonsense. Read this stuff. We break this out. And when you take time, we're going to give you copies of this to take with you today. We break this thing out literally neighborhood by neighborhood.
Development
by
development. So again,
project
guys,
by project.
But all you have in here, and this is to close the interview today, but all you have in here, it's information. In order to convert that information into knowledge, you need to read it over at least, I'm serious, 35 to 40 times. So you develop the skills, and when you talk to a client, and Ivaldo asks that question, and he's one of the agents that I respect the most in Miami, and he really knows this stuff, and it's the truth. So develop the skills, read this over and over, not just read it once and then jump to another thing and another thing and another. Keep reading the same thing over and over. Create summaries, create PowerPoint presentations for yourself. So you develop the skills, and when you talk to a client, you sound convincing because you are convinced, because you know the truth, right?
Orlando said it beautifully, because I will tell you, your client will know when you're talking from your chin up.
Exactly.
Your client will know when you're talking from your chin down.
Yep.
When you have it here, I don't know. Life is so much a transfer of energy. People feel your competency or they don't. And the other thing I tell everybody on ISG is, look, you want to be successful in this business, there's 2 things you have to master.
Okay.
You have to be competent at what we do. This helps that thing.
Right.
And number two, Alex, I'm going to amplify something Alex said earlier. You got to be likable.
Yep.
You got to be likable.
Yep.
You got an opinion, sometimes you just got to bite your lip and just keep it shut. And throw the chair through the window if you have to.
Yep.
Go home and kick your dog.
Yeah.
But stay likable because, as I said earlier, because God has a sense of humor, the person you piss off today is going to be the one you're going to need tomorrow. Don't slip on that banana peel.
Yeah.
Keep a lot of your opinions to yourself. Or Alex says it even better. Develop a fan club. Make people respect and like you. They're going to want to keep doing business with you over and over again. This helps the competency.
By the way,
Common sense helps you like
by learning this, if I can get a closing out of this, what's the average commission on a pre-construction? 6% of a $700,000 property, that's $40, $50, $100, $150,000 property is worth learning it. All right.
Here's $1 million, so it's $60,000, and we pay in 60 days.
There you go.
Forget the commercial message.
Fred, it's been again. Look like
There we go.
It's been a pleasure.
Oh, very nice. Look at that.
Yes.
So now I'm in the power
There you go.
position. Okay. How do you like that?
Thank you very much, man. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you guys for being here
Thank
today. Until next time, make it a very, very productive day. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.